Thank you very much. Happy New Year. Brooke, when you were talking about those conversions, those folks who were moving to the state of Texas, I first thought you were going to say you were hoping that they would convert to becoming Texas Aggies. I figured you were handing out Aggie cards. Wallace, I don't guess I should show her my boots with the Longhorns on them, should I? That won't get me back on the board, would it? Hey, it's great to be here. It's great to see a lot of you that I met as I ran around the state of Texas in 2012 campaigning. Brooke said, why don't you kind of share some of the thoughts of the things that happened there and your experiences. Before I do share some of those thoughts, though, I wanted to talk to you about Mike Ditka. Mike really wanted to be here. I worked with Ditka at CBS on the NFL Today for several years. He's a great guy. He's a passionate person, as you all know, but he's passionate about the country and the Constitution and supporting the Constitution. He wanted to be here. When I talked to him 2 days ago, he was on a plane. ESPN had him going out doing a commercial in California. He was going to do something else for the playoffs. And as if you watch ESPN, I said, come on, man. You've got to be kidding me. We've been putting all this into you being here to be the speaker. But we do have another Illinois guy coming, University of Illinois, here in just a minute. Some funny things happened. I've said all along that I felt called to run when I did run for office. It was a great experience. I'm so glad that I did it. There were a few things that really stuck out in my mind. One of them was the initial debate that we had televised, and the TPPF Foundation was the one who authored and sponsored that deal. And if you'll recall, if you were there, about halfway through the debate, a moderator asked me, he was trying me on. And he wanted to know, he goes, Mr. James, he goes, you know, people know that you know sports and everything, but now they want to know if you're running for office, what do you know about, you know, government, et cetera? Who is the Secretary of Defense? And if you were there, there was a pause, because in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, I can't believe this guy's trying me on. He's trying to trick me. And so then I blare out, you know, Leon Panetta, you know, and everybody, got excited. And I was like, oh, thank you, Lord. And I said, by the way, Mr. Gates was good before him, too. That went on for a little while, and eventually we got through that part, and people realized I understood policy. I had a position. I had an idea of what I was talking about. And so then the routines of the campaign kicked in. And the truck, I have an F-150. I was putting about 2,000 miles per week on it. Ken Paxton calls every once in a while, and he's like, man, CJ, you forgot to tell me about this state and how big it is. I mean, there are a lot of corners to this state and a lot of towns in between. But one of the things, about 2 months into this campaign, I was feeling, you know, really kind of good. And our polling, by the way, polls don't lie. They don't lie. Cruz called me at the end. He goes, Craig, I'd like you to drop out and endorse me. He goes, you're really far behind. I'm like, no, we're doing good. He was really right. So anyway, I tell my staff, I said, this Quilmageddon story, it's a biblical story about how God provided a miracle, a phenomenal miracle. And I said, expect a miracle. I'm trying to cheer the staff on. So I went down to South Texas, and I'm starting in Kingsville. I'm going to work my way up for the next few days. So I show up at lunch in Kingsville, and the party chairman, she's there, and she says, hello, Craig, how are you? Great, good to see you. Her friend is there. Great to see you. There's a table full of sub sandwiches. The three of us had lunch that day. And I remember leaving that lunch, and I'm like, this is comical. I've come all the way down here. I've talked about Quilmageddon, this miracle that God's going to provide for our campaign. And so I left there. I went to the King Ranch Museum, bought a ticket, did a tour of the museum, went to the old soda shop in Kingsville, had a soda and a hamburger there, drove up to Corpus Christi for the next event. Called the staff, and I said, hey, you know that miracle I'm talking about? It's not going to start in Kingsville. They said, oh, well, geez, hang in there. All right, a couple weeks later, I go to West Texas. You know, and you're just in this, you have one foot in front of the other, and you're just going about it. And all you guys, you know what I'm talking about, who've been through these campaigns. And you're just focused on the next day and the next event. So I show up, and it's going to be like a Sweetwater, Abilene, Midland, Odessa thing. And I had a hotel, I think, in Odessa. And so I called, and I canceled the hotel room, and I said, I want to stay in Midland. And the staff said, are you sure you want to change, you know, don't cancel your room? I said, I'll be no problem. 8 phone calls later, I'm calling everyone, no, we have no vacant, no. Someone says, yes, we have a room. I said, I'll take it. And it was $150. And I said, great, where is it? Give me the address. So I drive up to this place. Scott, I drive up to this place. There are clothes hanging outside people's doors. It looked like a Hurricane Katrina refugee camp. They were barbecuing, grilling. And so I'm like, oh, well, at least I got a room. I open the door, and I don't smoke. Whoever had been there before me had smoked 1,000 cigarettes. I turned the window unit on. Poof, smoke came out of the unit. Turned the sheets, but the sheets had holes in them. They'd been used so often. And I thought, I looked at my badge over on the desk. It says Craig James, conservative U.S. Senate candidate. I said, yeah, I'm big time, There are so many things that you can take from that. Now, hang with me. I'm going to tie something together for you here just a moment about the campaign and what just happened to me. A lot of you have asked me since I've been here what's going on with Fox Sports. Many of you probably don't have a clue what I'm talking about. But I used to work for ESPN and ABC. And I had to give up that gig when I ran for office. And so I kind of stayed out, and people were like, "You're going to get back into sportscasting, you're going to do it?" And I was like, "No, I'm really enjoying my family and in the season of life that I'm in right now." 2 of our 4 kids just got married this fall. I was with them. I really have enjoyed my family and what the Lord's provided me with peace. Fox Sports calls me in August of last year, and they say, "Hey, we've got a show on Saturday night. It's a 1-hour show. Would you come be the analyst for it?" And I said, "You know what? I'll do that," because it was no airplanes. It was in Dallas. I live in the Dallas area. I could drive to the studio, do this 1-hour show, and go home, no problem. So Labor Day weekend is the opening weekend of last season. On Friday afternoon of Labor Day weekend, Fox Sports issues a very complimentary, flattering press release saying Craig James joining the studio. He's got a long blah, blah, blah. Really, really nice deal. Saturday night I went on and I did my 1-hour show that I'd agreed to do. Sunday, the very next day, I get a phone call that night from that general manager, and he said, "Craig, you're done." I'd been on the air 60 minutes, and I'm being fired. And I said, "You're kidding me." Well, it just kind of soaked in. Well, the next morning, I come to find out that Fox Corporate, the parent company, had taken some heat from a community, and they fired me because of my position that I had said 15 months earlier in a candidates debate about what I believe marriage to be, and that is between a man and a woman. So I was fired because of my biblical belief. And at that point then, the fire in my backside was lit. And I have been on a mission to get out and to speak about religious discrimination. We are in a cultural war right now. Absolutely. I reached out to Phil Robertson and Duck Dynasty guys and what they're doing and what they've gone through. Thousands upon thousands of people wrote Fox and said, "You can't do this to Craig James. He has the freedom in America, the United States of America, to hold a biblical belief, to have a religious freedom." People who know me know that I'm not a bigot, that I don't discriminate. But what they did to me is absolutely wrong. And I think that America, we have to have more people become engaged. That's been what I've done. It's opened the door for me to speak all over the country, to doing news and radio shows. I have done a lot of speaking on the First Amendment. It's very important, if you hear nothing else today, we are in a battle. It is a real slippery slope. Somebody said, "Well, Craig, just let it go. Just let it, it'll just blow away." Well, here's how I look at it. When something big comes up in our lives, if we just sweep it under the rug, it happens again and then another time, then the slope becomes so slippery that you can't stop the slope. And the next thing you know, it becomes policy in this country. The Constitution of the United States has stood well for us for years and years and years. I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. I don't care. It's not about Craig James. It's not about a Phil Robertson or a Duck Dynasty. It's about having the ability to hold dear to your heart in America a religious belief, period. And not be persecuted or discriminated against. I can't tell you guys, Brian, I can't tell you how many people have come up to me now around the country, and they bring this up, and they say how fearful they are at their workplace for their belief to be known by their employer in fear of being fired. Because the pressure is coming so strong from the other side that company doesn't want to have to take the heat for it, for having an association with that. So here's what needs to happen. You've got to support those who have like-minded, whatever that is. We can't have just to have a third or a quarter of the country being heard. All of us have to be heard. And that's why it's so important that we continue to battle for that. Next week, we'll be out in L.A., and the president of Fox Sports, who fired me because of my biblical belief, he's going to have a deposition. I'm very fortunate. Liberty Institute, Kelly Shackelford, Jeff Mateer, Hiram Sasser, Clyde Seidman, those guys, they are defending me. They're not just defending me, they're defending us. And so, why did I serve on the board at TPPF? Why are you doing it, Wendy? Why are you guys here? Why are we here? Why are we all being representative? And those of you who have been blessed to be elected, why are you doing what you're doing? You're doing it to stand up and to be heard. At the TPPF, we count on the work that comes from here. The research paper, you guys know that, Scott, what all you get from this. Wendy, you guys are phenomenal what is produced from the TPPF. So there is a person, there's a purpose for why we're here. There's a purpose for what each individual in every seat in this room is here for. Now, too much is given, much is expected. Every one of us has a different talent, a different thing that we can accomplish, and a different thing that we can do. Whatever that might be. Hi, Jody. Whatever it might be, use it to the fullest you can be with compassion and love and determination. So we're going to hold Fox to the feet to the fire on this thing. They're wrong, and we're not going to let it just be swept under the rug and avoided. So I've greatly enjoyed meeting all of you guys when I was on the road. It's an awesome experience. There are thousands of men and women who are qualified to run for office, and many don't do it, and now I get the reasons why. My bank account, you take a lot of arrows, you do a lot of things. You got to have a passion if you're going to run, and a real call from the Lord to do it. And so, man, thank you all. Now I really say thank you to you representatives and all of you elected officials who are in here for what you do, because you really are sacrificing. You really are. And so thank you all very much. And I would appreciate your prayers on this Fox situation with me. All right, let me turn now to Scott Turner. So Scott asked me, he goes, CJ, do you need something on me? What do you need, man? I said, look, Scott, I'm not going to talk about you and being a football guy. You tell me you were good, I guess you were good. I mean, he did go to the University of Illinois, so we do have, not DeBear here, but we do have somebody from the Illini State here that had a little education there. I played in the 80s, you played in the 90s. I don't know if you could have caught me. He was a defensive guy. Somebody asked me the other day, said, how fast were you? I said, depending on who was chasing me. Let me tell you about Scott. He and Matt Krause and I were at the Values Voters Conference a few months ago in Washington. And I watched Matt and I watched Scott and I watched them walk around and talk to people. And the heart of these guys, and many of you in here have the same hearts. The heart is where it begins. It's not about football. It's not about anything else. You and Robin are blessed. We're members at the same church, Prestonwood Baptist Church. I've known Scott a long time. We are lucky to have men and women who are giving y'all's time to represent and serve us. And so the state of Texas is in great hands. There's a reason we're good. There's a reason the state's great. And along with Brooke and the rest of the TPPF, we're going to keep fighting for you guys and praying for you guys.